Every city you know has a secret twin buried beneath it. We are walking directly above lost worlds, entire kingdoms hidden under the pavement. This journey will peel back the layers of modern mega-cities to reveal the astonishing subterranean realms that silently shape our world. You will discover how ancient catacombs, forgotten transit lines, and even entire cities lie perfectly preserved below the surface, telling a story far older than the skyscrapers above. How deep does a city's memory go, and what remains of the civilizations we built over? What happens when you find a door in a basement that should not be there? By the end of this exploration, your perception of the ground beneath your feet will be permanently changed. What forgotten history do you think is sleeping under your own hometown? The ground beneath a modern city is not solid earth but a compressed library of forgotten time. We call this the urban basement, the foundational layer that cradles the ruins of everything that came before. This is not a metaphor. Cities do not simply replace their pasts, they entomb them, building new streets and structures directly on the rubble of the old. This creates a vertical timeline, a historical record stacked in layers of stone, brick, and packed soil. Urban archaeologists point to three fundamental forces that drive this process. The first is natural topography. Early settlements naturally clustered on hills for defense or near rivers for water, and as populations grew, they filled in the valleys and lowlands around them, burying the earliest footprints. The second force is defense. Throughout history, when a city was sacked or destroyed, rebuilding often meant leveling the ruins and building right on top of them, raising the city's elevation for a stronger defensive position for the next attack. The third and most constant force is simple urban renewal. When a building becomes too old or a street too narrow, it is often easier to demolish and rebuild on the spot rather than clear the debris away. This cycle, repeated over centuries, creates a perfect archaeological phenomenon known as a tell, an artificial mound formed by the accumulated layers of human habitation. The city of Rome is the ultimate example. When you walk through the Roman Forum today, you are standing nearly 10 meters above the original marshland where the city began. Beneath your feet lie the buried columns of imperial basilicas, which themselves were built over the foundations of republican temples. This layering effect acts as a remarkable time capsule. The very act of burying a street or a room seals it away from the elements, protecting artifacts, walls, and even entire structures for millennia. So the next time you descend into a subway station or a parking garage, consider the depth of the excavation. You are not just going underground, you are passing through the pages of a history book, each layer a chapter from a different era. What stories are sealed in the strata just below the city's concrete skin? A man was simply renovating his home in 1963 when he broke through a wall and found a dark passageway. This accidental discovery would lead to the unsealing of an entire lost city, Derinkuyu, hidden deep within the rock of central Turkey. This was not a few rooms or a single shelter, but an astonishing underground metropolis carved from soft volcanic stone across at least 18 levels, descending nearly 300 feet into the earth. It was a labyrinth designed for survival, a place where up to 20,000 people could live for months, completely hidden from the world above. Scholars debate its true origins, with some tracing its first chambers back to the Hittites over 3,000 years ago, while others believe early Christians expanded it into a vast refuge from persecution. The engineering is what truly staggers the mind. This was not a crude cave, it was a functioning city. It had everything a population needed to endure a long siege. Ingenious ventilation shafts, some over 100 feet deep, provided fresh air to every level. Protected wells tapped into a subterranean water source. There were stables for livestock, spacious living quarters, communal kitchens, and even beautifully carved churches, their silent chapels waiting for a congregation that never returned. Its security was as sophisticated as its infrastructure. The entire complex could be sealed off from the inside using massive, circular stone doors. These were immense wheels of rock, weighing hundreds of pounds each, that could be rolled into place across key passageways, blocking any invader. Imagine the sound of that stone grinding shut, the finality of it, sealing a community away in a self-contained world. Derinkuyu stands as a monumental case study in human ingenuity, a purpose-built kingdom in the dark. It proves that when faced with existential threats, our ancestors did not just hide, they built. They engineered entire societies beneath the ground, leaving behind a silent, stone testament to the will to survive. If a single home renovation could reveal such a sprawling secret, what other hidden civilizations might lie forgotten, just waiting for one more knock on the right wall? While the city of Paris gleams above, a second, silent city of the dead sleeps in the darkness below. This is the Empire of the Dead, the famous catacombs, a labyrinthine ossuary holding the carefully arranged bones of more than 6 million people. The contrast is jarring. You leave the bustling streets, the cafes, the light, and descend into a cool, silent world of stone and skeleton. This was not an ancient mystery, but a practical solution to a crisis that threatened the living. By the late 1700s, Parisian cemeteries were overflowing to a horrifying degree. The central cemetery, Les Innocents, was so saturated that bodies were barely covered, and a foul miasma was said to seep into the surrounding neighborhoods. The very ground was poisoned. The city needed a drastic answer, and it found one in the abandoned limestone quarries that riddled the earth beneath its foundations. For years, every night, a solemn procession of black-draped wagons would carry centuries of bones from the overflowing cemeteries to their new, eternal resting place. The work was given to quarry workers who did more than just dump the remains. With a strange and solemn artistry, they stacked femurs and skulls into walls, creating patterns and heart-shaped designs, even building pillars and arches from the anonymous dead. They left inscriptions carved into the stone, reminders to those who would walk these tunnels. One reads, "Halt, for this is the empire of death." But these tunnels are more than a tomb. The limestone itself tells a story, for it was this very stone that built the city above, the grand palaces and boulevards of the City of Light. Once the quarries were emptied of their building blocks, they were filled with the city's memory, becoming a geological and historical archive. The walls bear witness to more than just the 18th century. Centuries later, during the Second World War, French resistance fighters used these hidden passages, leaving their own marks and messages on the stone. The catacombs show us how a city, faced with an unbearable problem, can literally bury its past out of sheer necessity, transforming a practical space into a profound repository of collective memory and human crisis. This act of moving the dead to save the living makes you wonder, what other pressing urban problems have been solved by simply going underground, and what else those silent spaces now hold? Beneath the frantic energy of modern Beijing lies a ghost city, a vast labyrinth built not from ancient stone, but from 20th century concrete and fear. This is Dixia Cheng, the underground city, a sprawling network of tunnels conceived during the Cold War to shelter much of the capital's population from aerial attack. Its scale is almost incomprehensible. originally planned to cover an area of over 80 square kilometers. This was a civil defense project of staggering ambition, born from the specific geopolitical anxieties of the mid-1960s. The order came from the very top, from Chairman Mao Zedong himself, who reportedly instructed the people to dig deep tunnels and store grain everywhere, preparing for a protracted war. The entire city mobilized. For nearly a decade, citizens, students, and soldiers labored with shovels and pickaxes, carving out a subterranean world directly beneath their feet. This was not just a bomb shelter, it was designed as a fully functioning alternate city. Historians and the few urban explorers who have mapped its sealed sections describe a space equipped with everything needed for long-term survival. There were hospitals ready for the wounded, classrooms for children, communal kitchens, granaries stocked with food, and even theaters and shops, all connected by a maze of passages wide enough for trucks to pass through. Ventilation shafts were disguised as manhole covers, and hidden entrances were tucked away in the basements of shops, schools, and government buildings. The propaganda of the era celebrated it as an underground Great Wall, a symbol of collective resilience and national defense. Yet the construction was a monumental challenge, a constant battle against flooding and cave-ins, fought with rudimentary tools. This hidden world was built for a war that thankfully never came. Today, most of Dixia Cheng is sealed off, repurposed into storage spaces, cheap hostels, or simply left to the damp and the darkness, a monument to a faded global tension. It stands as a powerful reminder that our drive to build below is not always born from ancient survival or spiritual need, but sometimes from the very modern, palpable fear of annihilation. This modern kingdom of anxiety makes you wonder, if we built such elaborate refuges from the threats of the recent past, what profound beliefs from the ancient world first compelled humanity to seek sanctuary in the Earth's embrace? The fear of modern annihilation gives way to a deeper, more ancient quest for the sacred. In the 1940s, a simple request to bury a deceased pope would crack open a secret that had lain dormant for nearly 2,000 years. Workers digging a new tomb beneath St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City broke through a floor and found not solid earth, but a void, an ornate chamber filled with stunningly preserved frescoes and marble. This was the first glimpse of the Vatican Necropolis, an ancient Roman city of the dead known as the Scavi, lying just feet below the foundations of the world's most famous church. What they had discovered was not a random crypt, but a full street of elaborate family mausoleums, dating back to the 1st and 2nd centuries. This was a pagan burial ground, a row of small, beautifully decorated houses for the dead, following Roman law that required cemeteries to be built outside the city walls. Walking through the Scavi today is like stepping onto a perfectly preserved Roman street, flanked by the facades of these tombs, their stucco and tile work still vibrant with color. Archaeologists were stunned to find a profound religious mosaic here, pagan mausoleums adorned with images of Roman gods and goddesses, stood directly beside tombs bearing the earliest symbols of Christianity, like the fish and the shepherd. This side-by-side placement reveals a world in spiritual transition, where families of different beliefs honored their dead together in a shared sacred space. The most earth-shattering discovery came at the very end of this street. There, excavators found a simple, humble tomb that had become a place of intense veneration in the 2nd century. Ancient graffiti scratched into a nearby wall bore the words, "Peter is here." After years of meticulous study, many scholars and the church itself believed this to be the final resting place of St. Peter, the Apostle, buried in a modest grave that would one day inspire the construction of the massive basilica overhead. The decision was made to preserve this entire necropolis exactly as it was found, a time capsule sealed beneath the church floor. This means the immense weight of Bernini's altar and Michelangelo's dome is supported by pillars that stand directly over these fragile, ancient tombs. It is a breathtaking fusion of sacred spaces, a physical layering of faiths where the roots of Christianity are literally grounded in the pagan past. The Vatican Necropolis forces us to ask if such a profound spiritual crossroads can exist beneath one of our greatest monuments. What other foundational beliefs are literally built upon the sacred ground of those who came before? The sacred past gives way to a hidden geography of water. Beneath the streets of London, a dozen lost rivers still flow, their currents trapped in immense brick tunnels. You can hear their ghostly echo if you stand on a grate along Farringdon Road and listen to the deep, gushing roar below. This is the voice of the River Fleet, once a wide, powerful waterway where Roman ships docked, now a colossal subterranean sewer. Its story, and that of its sister streams like the Tyburn and the Westbourne, reveals a city that did not just build over its history, but over its very landscape. In the 18th and 19th centuries, London's explosive growth turned these vital rivers from assets into open, festering drains. They became the city's dumping grounds, clogged with industrial waste and household sewage, creating a stench so unbearable it was known as the Great Stink. The solution was not to clean the rivers but to bury them. In a monumental feat of Victorian engineering, men like Joseph Bazalgette designed a vast underground network of intercepting sewers, massive brick-lined channels that captured these polluted streams and encased them forever. This was an act of sheer will, a physical overwriting of nature itself. The routes of these vanished rivers are not lost to memory. Their names persist in the city's anatomy, whispering their former paths. Fleet Street marks where the River Fleet once flowed. The Tyburn gives its name to a corner of Mayfair, and the Westbourne is remembered in Westbourne Grove, its water still crossing the Thames in an iron pipe above the platform of Sloane Square Tube Station. These submerged rivers are a testament to a profound urban process, the hiding of entire aquatic worlds to make way for the city above. This act of concealing one form of movement to enable another leads us directly to the most famous subterranean networks of all, the ones we use every day. A tiled vault of breathtaking beauty lies dormant beneath the feet of thousands of daily commuters. This is the City Hall station of the New York City subway, a ghostly relic of the system's inaugural line. Its elegant Guastavino arches, intricate skylights, and brass chandeliers were designed to be a grand civic entrance, a palace for the public. Yet today, it sits in profound silence, a forgotten cathedral while modern trains rumble past on adjacent tracks without stopping. This station is just one of many such phantom hubs, sealed away and left as time capsules of the city's relentless evolution. The reasons for their abandonment are a practical ledger of urban progress. Some, like the 18th Street station on the 6th line, were closed simply because they were built too close to newer, larger stations. As ridership swelled and trains grew longer, the distance between stops was shortened to improve efficiency, rendering the older, shorter platforms obsolete. Others, like the Worth Street station, fell victim to the complex rerouting of tracks during system expansions and consolidations. City Hall itself was a casualty of its own design, its sharply curved platform too dangerous for the longer, newer trains that came to dominate the network. Transit historians describe the experience of seeing these spaces as stepping into a frozen moment. The original mosaic tiles spelling out the station's name still gleam under layers of dust. The ironwork is untouched and the air is still and cool. Urban explorers who have slipped into these realms speak of the haunting beauty, a place where the roar of a passing train is the only reminder that time has not completely stopped. These stations are more than just abandoned rooms. They are preserved fragments of early 20th century ambition, representing the very first layer of a now massive infrastructure system. Their elegant design was a statement, an intention to make public transit not just functional but inspirational. That these artistic spaces are now hidden in plain sight speaks to the city as a living organism, one that constantly sheds its skin, leaving behind the architectural bones of its former self. The existence of these silent, beautiful voids beneath a city defined by noise and motion is a powerful paradox. It forces us to consider what other elegant solutions from the past have been bricked over in the name of progress, and what we might rediscover when our current systems, in turn, become obsolete. A cold, clinging dampness seeps from the stone walls of Edinburgh's buried streets. These are the South Bridge Vaults, a network of chambers sealed beneath the city's old town for over a century, and their reputation as one of the most haunted places in Britain is etched into the very air. This underworld was not born from ancient mystery, but from a simple engineering project. When the South Bridge was completed in 1788, it was a marvel of urban connection, spanning a valley with 19 stone arches. The spaces within these arches were initially intended as storage for the businesses above, but the construction was rushed, the stone was porous, and dampness quickly flooded in. The respectable merchants abandoned the dripping chambers, leaving a void that the city's most desperate citizens swiftly filled. What was once an infrastructure project became a subterranean slum, a hidden world of brutal poverty. Historians describe how the poorest of the poor, the destitute and the criminals, moved into these windowless, waterlogged rooms. They built partitions to create tiny living spaces, while illicit taverns, known as shebeens, thrived in the darkness, serving cheap, often dangerous alcohol. Cobblers and tanners set up workshops, their chemical smells mixing with the stench of unwashed bodies and the constant chill of the stone. Life here was short and merciless, a constant struggle against disease and despair, completely invisible to the elegant society walking on the bridge overhead. The legends that festered in this darkness long outlasted its inhabitants. Paranormal investigators and local lore tell of a persistent, malevolent presence known as the Watcher, and the spirit of a restless little boy named Jack. After the vaults were finally evacuated and sealed in the 19th century, these stories grew, fed by the grim history of the place. It was not until the late 20th century that archaeologists began the painstaking process of excavating the vaults, breaking through bricked-up archways to reveal a time capsule of a forgotten sub-society. They did not find grand treasures, but the poignant artifacts of everyday hardship, broken pottery, old coins, and the simple tools of the cobblers and tanners who once worked there. Each object pieced together the picture of a vibrant, resilient, and deeply troubled community that carved out an existence in the city's shadow self. The Edinburgh vaults stand as a stark example of how urban infrastructure can spawn unintended worlds. The bridge was built to connect, yet it accidentally created an isolated kingdom of the forgotten, a space that developed its own brutal culture and lasting legends. This hidden realm of poverty and paranormal fear makes the deliberate, life-affirming shelters built for survival seem all the more remarkable. Deep beneath the tranquil green fields of Wieliczka, a ghost city sleeps in absolute silence. This is the Burlington Bunker, a top-secret citadel built in the 1950s to house the entire British government in the event of nuclear war. Its existence was one of the Cold War's most closely guarded secrets, a monument to the paranoia of an age where entire nations could be erased in an afternoon. The scale of this subterranean world is almost beyond belief. Constructed 100 feet down, it was not a single shelter but a fully functioning alternate capital, a labyrinth of over 60 miles of tunnels sprawling beneath a former stone quarry. It contained everything needed to run a country from the dark. There were offices for more than 4,000 civil servants, a vast communications center with its own telephone exchange, and even a broadcasting studio for the BBC, from which a surviving government could address a shattered nation. Declassified documents and military historians paint a picture of staggering logistics. The bunker was designed to be entirely self-sufficient for up to 3 months. It had its own power plant, a reservoir created from a subterranean lake, and huge stores of food and medical supplies. To maintain morale in what would have been an unimaginable crisis, the planners even included a canteen, a bakery, and a dedicated bar, a grim parody of an English pub at the end of the world. Yet for all its immense cost and ingenuity, Burlington had a fatal flaw. It was conceived in an era of bomber aircraft, a threat for which there was at least some warning. With the advent of intercontinental ballistic missiles in the 1960s, the warning time shrank to mere minutes, making the complex evacuation of ministers from London a practical impossibility. The bunker was rendered strategically obsolete almost as soon as it was fully operational. It was kept on standby for decades, a silent, dusty insurance policy against an apocalypse, before finally being declassified and sold off. Today, it stands as a chilling historical site, a concrete time capsule of 20th century dread. Burlington represents the ultimate expression of the underground as a refuge from an existential threat. This was a kingdom built not for glory, faith, or commerce, but for the bleak, simple hope of continuity. It forces us to ask, if entire governments were building these hidden command centers, what other strategic subterranean structures were carved out in the name of national security, and where might they be hiding in plain sight today? There is a church 300 meters underground where the walls themselves are made of salt. This is the chamber of St. Kinga in Poland's Wieliczka salt mine, a cavern so immense and ornate it redefines the very idea of an underground space. Its chandeliers, which appear to be crystal, are in fact carved entirely from salt crystals, refracting light across a chapel where every detail, from the altarpieces to the floor tiles, has been painstakingly sculpted from the same rock salt. For over 700 years, from the 13th to the 20th century, this mine was not just a hole in the ground, it was a subterranean civilization. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site not merely for its industrial scale, but for the breathtaking artistic world the miners created within it. The tradition of the miner sculptor is central to this story. These were not artists brought in from the outside, they were the miners themselves who, after their grueling shifts, would pick up their tools to carve. They transformed their workplace into a sacred gallery, filling the tunnels and chambers with hundreds of statues and intricate bas-reliefs. They carved scenes from mythology, and most often from their own deep faith, depicting saints and biblical tableaus directly into the salt walls, turning the dark, dangerous depths into a place of profound spiritual refuge. The mining techniques themselves were a form of artistry. They used the room and pillar method, a system where vast chambers or rooms are excavated while leaving behind sturdy columns of salt to support the ceiling. This method created the grand, open spaces that would later become the canvases for their work, and within these deep chambers, a unique microclimate exists. The constant temperature and humidity, along with the natural preservative quality of the salt, have perfectly protected the wooden support structures and the intricate carvings for centuries, leaving them as crisp and detailed as the day they were finished. The Wieliczka salt mine stands as a singular monument, an underground kingdom born from the brute force of resource extraction that organically evolved into a cultural and spiritual sanctuary. It is a place where daily labor and divine inspiration met in the dark, creating something of startling beauty. This astonishing transformation from a practical mine to an artistic marvel challenges us to look again at other industrially created voids and ask what unexpected beauty might be lying dormant within the Earth's utilitarian spaces. The air is thick with the smell of damp earth and something else, the sharp, acrid scent of fear. A young soldier inches forward on his elbows and knees, his world reduced to a tube of darkness barely wider than his shoulders. Any sound he makes is swallowed by the compacted soil, and any misstep could mean triggering a bamboo spike trap hidden just beneath the floor. This was the reality of the Coober tunnels, a 200-kilometer labyrinth of subterranean passages that became one of the most formidable weapons of the Vietnam War. For the Viet Cong, this hidden network was not just a shelter, it was an entire strategic ecosystem carved from the earth itself. Military historians describe it as a city beneath the battlefield, a masterpiece of asymmetric warfare. The tunnels had specialized zones for every function of war and life. There were weapons factories where scavenged American shell casings were melted down and repurposed. There were command centers where strategies were planned, and field hospitals where surgeons performed complex operations by the light of a single kerosene lamp. The greatest challenge was remaining undetected. The engineers of this underground world displayed breathtaking ingenuity. Ventilation shafts were cleverly concealed inside termite mounds, their complex internal structures providing perfect camouflage and airflow. Kitchens were relocated deep underground, with their cooking smoke filtered through a series of long, meandering tunnels and released far from the source, dissipating the telltale plumes into the jungle air. Life in this sunless world was a relentless psychological and physical trial. Fighters and the civilians who supported them endured years with minimal light, plagued by insects, disease, and malnutrition. Veterans' accounts speak of the constant dampness that rotted clothing and skin, and the oppressive silence that was broken only by the sudden, terrifying vibrations of bombs from the world above. For the American soldiers tasked with clearing these tunnels, the experience was a special kind of dread. They were known as tunnel rats, volunteers who would descend into this claustrophobic maze armed only with a pistol, a knife, and a flashlight. They never knew what was around the next bend, an empty chamber, an enemy fighter, or a booby trap designed to maim and terrify. The psychological warfare was as effective as the physical, turning the very ground beneath their feet into an active enemy. The Coober tunnels stand as a brutal testament to the underground as the ultimate tool of the resilient. Against overwhelming technological superiority, this hidden kingdom allowed a determined force to survive, communicate, and strike from a realm of shadows. This profound use of the subsurface for strategic advantage makes you wonder what other critical, hidden infrastructure operates just out of sight, silently supporting the cities we live in today. The curious passerby in Seattle's Pioneer Square can sometimes glimpse a ghostly reflection of the past right beneath their feet. Through iron sidewalk grates, light filters down to reveal dusty, forgotten storefronts with their original 19th century facades still intact, a silent street resting one story below the modern city. This surreal sight is the legacy of the Great Fire of 1889, a catastrophe that burned the entire business district to the ground but presented a radical opportunity. The city fathers decided not just to rebuild, but to literally raise the city up. Seattle's original ground level was a tidal flat, prone to disastrous flooding whenever the tide came in. The solution was a monumental engineering project to regrade the entire downtown, building massive retaining walls and using hydraulic hoses to wash away the steep hills, then using the resulting slurry to fill in the lowlands and raise the street level by as much as 35 feet. For years, the city was a chaotic construction site, with new buildings being constructed with two separate first floors. As the streets rose around them, the original ground floors of these new structures were simply abandoned, becoming basements and eventually a sprawling network of subterranean passages. Urban historians note this created a bizarre urban landscape where the original sidewalks became the ceilings of these new underground arcades, with glass cubes embedded in the pavement above to let in a murky light. For decades, these abandoned spaces were left to the shadows. During Prohibition, they became a haven for speakeasies and illicit gambling halls, their hidden nature perfect for evading the law. Bootleggers and smugglers could move unseen beneath the feet of the police, a secret economy thriving in the city's buried foundations. Today, this accidental world is preserved as the Seattle Underground, explored on guided tours that descend into a time capsule of the 1890s. Visitors walk on creaking wooden boardwalks past original brick archways and shop windows still displaying period merchandise, their glass clouded with over a century of grime. The air is cool and thick with the smell of old timber and damp earth, a sensory link to the city's earliest incarnation. Seattle's story is one of urban improvement creating a hidden world by sheer accident, a kingdom born from mud, fire, and civic ambition. This act of a city consciously building over its own recent past makes the slow, silent burial of ancient cities by the sands of time seem all the more profound. The sound of a pickaxe striking stone in 1902 was followed not by the expected solid thud, but by a hollow rumble. Workers excavating a cistern for a new housing development on the island of Malta had just broken through into a void, revealing a dark opening that led to a labyrinth lost to time. This accidental discovery was the Saflieni Hypogeum, a sprawling, three-level subterranean complex carved entirely from limestone over 5,000 years ago, making it one of the oldest known underground sanctuaries in the world. This was not a mere cave, but a breathtaking feat of prehistoric engineering and belief, a necropolis and temple complex that descends deep into the earth, mirroring the megalithic temples that stood above ground at the time. For the Neolithic people who built it, this was a gateway between worlds. The upper level was a vast hall for the living, a space for gathering and initial rites. The middle level, accessed through a majestic doorway carved to look like the entrances of above-ground temples, held dozens of small, oval burial chambers known as the Holy of Holies, where the bones of the dead were carefully placed. The deepest level is the most profound, a silent, sacred pit accessible only by a small opening, where it is believed the final journey of the soul commenced. The architectural genius is staggering, but it is the sound of the place that truly defies explanation. One chamber, known as the Oracle Room, possesses an acoustic property that seems to defy physics. A deep voice spoken into a specific niche in the wall is not merely echoed, but amplified and transformed, its vibrations resonating through the entire chamber with an unearthly, powerful hum that can be felt in your bones. Archaeologists who have studied the site theorize this was no accident. The chamber was likely designed with this specific acoustic phenomenon in mind. Was it used by a spiritual leader to project a disembodied, godlike voice during rituals, creating an oracle that spoke from the very walls? Or did the sonic resonance itself play a part in altering consciousness, facilitating a trance-like state for communication with the spirit world? The theories are as compelling as they are varied, pointing to a society with a sophisticated understanding of both stone and sound. This delicate underground world now faces a modern threat. The very breath of visitors, the humidity they carry, and subtle shifts in temperature threaten the ancient ochre paintings that still adorn some of the ceilings and the stability of the limestone itself. Preservation is a constant, careful battle, requiring strict limits on visitor numbers to protect the fragile microclimate that has preserved this sanctuary for millennia. The Saflieni Hypogeum stands as a silent, profound monument to humanity's earliest spiritual impulses, a place where the boundary between the world of the living and the realm of the dead was intentionally blurred deep within the earth. This ancient drive to create sacred spaces below our feet finds a strange, modern parallel in the shadow economies that would later flourish in the cellars and buried streets of our own cities. A world without winter exists directly beneath the streets of Montreal. This is the Réseau, often called the Underground City, a climate-controlled kingdom of commerce and convenience that stretches for more than 20 miles. Every day, hundreds of thousands of people flow through this interior landscape, commuting from a subway train directly into their office tower, meeting friends for coffee in a sunken atrium, or shopping for groceries entirely sheltered from the bitter Canadian cold. This is not a hidden world born from crisis or ancient belief, but a meticulously planned solution to a very modern problem: the desire for urban comfort and efficiency. Its story begins in the 1960s with the construction of Place Ville-Marie, a cruciform skyscraper that became the city's new commercial heart. The architects and city planners of the era envisioned more than just a building. They saw an opportunity to connect it to the new metro system, creating a seamless link between transit and commerce. From that single, visionary connection, the network grew organically, link by link, a subterranean downtown stitching itself together beneath the existing city. Urban planners explain that the guiding principle was connectivity. The network was not built as one single project, but as a series of strategic alliances between private developers and the municipal government. Each new skyscraper or shopping center was encouraged, and sometimes required, to include a public corridor that would plug into the growing system. This created a sprawling web of passageways that connect 10 metro stations, 2 universities, and over 1,000 shops and restaurants. The design is deliberately intuitive, with wide, brightly lit corridors, clear signage, and a surprising amount of natural light filtering down from atriums and glass ceilings. It feels less like a basement and more like an interior boulevard, complete with fountains, lush greenery, and over 100 pieces of public art, turning a functional passage into a cultural promenade. This planned environment has fundamentally shaped Montreal's growth, making real estate directly linked to the network incredibly valuable and creating a vibrant, year-round downtown economy immune to the seasons. The Réseau stands as a powerful model for cities worldwide grappling with harsh climates, proving that building down can be as much about enhancing daily life as it is about survival. This modern, engineered marvel of urban living presents a stark contrast to the forgotten tombs and accidental worlds we have explored, forcing a compelling question: as our surface cities grow ever more crowded and our climate less predictable, will this deliberate, comfortable underworld become the blueprint for our future? The front door of a home in Coober, Pedy does not lead into a house but directly into a hill. This is an entire community living within the earth, a functioning town in the South Australian outback where the searing surface heat gives way to the constant, cool quiet of a subterranean world. Above ground, the landscape is a surreal, sun-bleached expanse of bulldozed earth and mining tailings, pockmarked with thousands of small holes where prospectors have searched for their fortune. This is the opal capital of the world, a place born from a desperate need to escape an unforgiving climate. The town's unique identity was forged just after the First World War, when returning soldiers began scouring this remote region for the precious gemstone. They quickly discovered that the best refuge from temperatures that can soar past 110 degrees Fahrenheit was not to build up, but to dig in, repurposing their mining claims into permanent homes. The term for these dwellings is the dugout, and they are far more than simple caves. Using modified mining machinery, residents excavate large, rectangular spaces deep within the sandstone hills. The rock itself is the perfect building material, structurally sound and naturally insulating. Once a space is carved out, the walls are sealed to prevent dust, and then the real transformation begins. These are not primitive holes, but fully modern residences, complete with electricity, running water, and internet. Intricate patterns are often carved directly into the soft rock ceilings, and arched doorways connect spacious living areas, bedrooms, and kitchens, all enjoying a year-round temperature of around 70 degrees without any need for air conditioning. Long-term residents speak of the profound comfort and the radical energy efficiency of their homes. They describe the deep, enveloping silence, broken only by the distant, muffled sounds of their neighbors, and the unique peace of living in a space that requires almost no artificial heating or cooling. The entire community thrives below. You can attend a service in a magnificent underground church, its pews facing an altar carved from the living rock, or stay in a subterranean hotel where guests sleep in cozy, cave-like rooms. You can even browse for opals in a shop located entirely beneath the surface. The mining process itself is a direct driver of this architecture. Prospectors use small drills and explosives to carefully extract the opal-bearing rock, and the resulting voids, if stable and well-positioned, often become the next generation of homes or businesses. This creates a fascinating cycle where the search for treasure continuously provides new real estate, a town that literally builds itself from the spoils of its own industry. Coober Pedy stands as a powerful testament to human adaptation, a sustainable kingdom built not from fear or faith, but from pure, practical necessity. It is a living example of how an extreme environment can forge a completely inverted way of life. But what is the psychological cost of choosing to live permanently away from the sun, in a world of artificial light and manufactured horizons? The profound silence of a deep cave is not an absence of sound, but a presence that presses in on the eardrums. For speleologists spending weeks in total darkness, the mind begins to compensate for the sensory void. Sounds become magnified, the drip of water echoes like a gunshot, and the rhythm of one's own heartbeat turns into a constant companion. This sensory rearrangement is just one facet of the unique psychology of subterranean life, a mental landscape shaped by the absence of the world above. Submariners on long patrols experience a similar detachment, living for months in a steel tube where the only light is artificial and the only horizon is a curved wall. Their bodies, like those of the residents in Coober Pedy, are governed by altered circadian rhythms. Without the rising and setting sun to anchor our internal clocks, the body's natural cycle of sleep and wakefulness can stretch or compress, leading to fatigue and disorientation. To combat this, isolated communities and professional underground dwellers adhere to strict, artificial schedules of light and dark, using specialized lamps that mimic the sun's progression to trick the brain into maintaining a semblance of normalcy. Anthropologists studying these communities note a common psychological challenge often called cave fever, a restless claustrophobia and irritability that can emerge from the constant confinement and lack of visual stimulation. The endless, unchanging environment can grind down mental resilience, creating a potent recipe for depression and anxiety if left unaddressed. Yet, the human response to this challenge is where the story becomes truly remarkable. Psychologists point to the emergence of incredibly strong social cohesion as the primary coping mechanism. In an environment where individual survival is deeply intertwined with the group, social bonds intensify. Shared hardship forges a unique cultural identity, one built on mutual reliance and a distinct set of norms that separate the underground community from the surface world. This intense camaraderie creates a powerful sense of belonging and a profound, almost primal, feeling of security. Being insulated from the violent storms, extreme temperatures, and chaotic noise of the surface world can bring a deep psychological comfort, a feeling of being protected within the earth itself. This duality is the core of the underground mind. There is the undeniable weight of the challenges, the struggle against the gloom and the confinement. But there is also the unexpected freedom from the anxieties of weather and the intense, family-like bonds that form in the shared quiet. The community becomes your entire world, your clock, and your support system. How would you cope if your day was devoid of natural light, your horizons were rock walls, and your social circle was limited to those sharing your hidden space? This question reveals the incredible elasticity of the human psyche. Our need for social connection and structured routine is so powerful that it can build a sustainable society in the most unlikely of environments, rewriting the rules of human interaction to survive and even thrive in the dark. Understanding this mental fortitude is essential because it is the very same resilience that enables us to push deeper, using the most advanced tools to map the voids we are only beginning to understand. A researcher slowly pushes a cart with a small antenna over a patch of grass, their eyes fixed on a screen that reveals a phantom city beneath the soil. This is ground-penetrating radar, a device that sends harmless radio waves into the earth and listens for their echoes, painting a picture of buried walls, voids, and artifacts without ever breaking ground. It is one of a suite of high-tech tools that have transformed subterranean exploration from a game of chance into a precise science. Geophysicists and exploration specialists now use technologies that feel borrowed from science fiction to safely navigate the most dangerous and inaccessible voids. LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging, uses laser pulses to map caverns and ruins with millimeter accuracy, creating stunningly detailed three-dimensional models that can be explored virtually from anywhere in the world. For spaces flooded with water, sonar takes over, its acoustic pings charting the contours of submerged tunnels and rooms. And when a passage is too unstable for a human, robotic crawlers equipped with cameras and sensors venture into the darkness, their live feeds revealing collapses or treasures hidden for centuries. These tools have fundamentally rewritten our understanding of known sites. In Egypt, scans of the Great Pyramid of Giza have revealed previously unknown voids and chambers, suggesting that the grandest tomb of all may still hold its deepest secrets. Beneath Rome, laser scans of the catacombs have mapped intricate details of the burial niches and hidden passages that were impossible to see with the naked eye, while in Turkey, ground-penetrating radar has hinted at entirely new, undiscovered levels in the Derinkuyu complex. The value of this knowledge extends far beyond archaeology. Urban planners use the same technologies to map the labyrinth of pipes, cables, and forgotten foundations beneath a city before digging a new subway line, preventing costly accidents and delays. In disaster response, knowing the precise layout of subterranean spaces can guide rescue teams to survivors trapped in collapsed buildings or underground shelters. The Earth's hidden layers are no longer a mystery but a dataset. This newfound power to see through stone and time is not without its complications. The very act of revealing a hidden space, whether with a laser scanner or a robotic probe, immediately raises profound questions. Who does this discovered history belong to? And who has the right to decide what we do with the secrets we uncover? A locked door in a condemned factory basement is not just a barrier, it is a question. Who has the right to open it? This is the world of urban exploration, where the thrill of discovery clashes directly with the letter of the law. Urbex enthusiasts often operate in a legal gray area, trespassing into forgotten subway stations, sealed military bunkers, and derelict hospitals, driven by a passion to document history that is actively crumbling. Their stunning photographs and videos bring these hidden worlds to the public, but the act itself is fraught with peril. Lawyers specializing in property rights point out that regardless of intent, entering these spaces without permission is illegal trespass, a violation that can lead to serious fines or even arrest. The conflict is profound, pitting the public's intangible right to its own heritage against the concrete rights of a property owner to control their asset and ensure safety. Preservationists stand in the middle of this debate, deeply conflicted. They acknowledge that urban explorers have sometimes uncovered historically significant sites that were completely unknown to officials, effectively saving them from being destroyed by redevelopment. Yet they also mourn the damage that can be done by even well-meaning visitors. A single misplaced foot can collapse a fragile floor, or a curious hand can smudge a NCIENT Chinese letter that has survived for centuries. This tension between access and protection becomes a matter of life and death. Emergency responders recount tragic cases where explorers have fallen through rotten floors, been overcome by toxic gases in sealed chambers, or become trapped in collapsing tunnels. Each accident sparks the same difficult question: who is responsible when someone is injured or killed in a place they were never supposed to be? The answers are rarely simple, creating a murky ethical landscape where admiration for the explorers' daring is tempered by the grim reality of the risks they take. This drive to uncover the past extends into the formal world of archaeology, which is governed by a strict ethical code. Professional excavations proceed with painstaking slowness, meticulously documenting the context of every artifact and shard of bone. The primary goal is not simply to find treasure, but to preserve information, understanding the story of a site as a whole before it is ever disturbed. This same principle of care applies to natural subterranean spaces. Speleologists, those who study caves, follow a strict rule to leave no trace, protecting the fragile, slow-growing mineral formations and the unique, often blind, ecosystems that depend on absolute darkness and stability. Perhaps the most sensitive ethical dilemmas involve the discovery of human remains. When bones are found in an ancient catacomb or a forgotten burial vault, they are not merely artifacts. They are the physical remains of people who had lives, cultures, and descendants. There is a growing movement toward the repatriation of these remains, returning them to affiliated cultural groups for proper burial according to their own traditions. This process forces a difficult reconciliation, balancing the scientific value of studying the bones against the profound moral duty to respect the dead and the beliefs of the living. These legal and ethical battles all revolve around a single core struggle: the need to balance our innate curiosity with a deep and abiding respect. We are drawn to these hidden kingdoms, but we must ask ourselves what we owe to the history we uncover, the property we enter, and the fragile worlds we expose. Every decision to explore or to preserve carries a financial weight, a calculation of value that transforms these historical voids into modern economic assets. The value of a city is often measured by its skyline, but a more complex market thrives in the darkness below. This is the world of subsurface rights, a legal and financial concept as intricate as the web of tunnels it governs. Just as developers can buy and sell the air above a skyscraper, known as air rights, they can also acquire the rights to build and profit from the space beneath the ground. In hyper-dense cities like New York and Tokyo, this has created a vertical real estate market where every cubic foot, from the clouds to the bedrock, has a price tag. Urban economists describe how municipalities themselves have become masters of this underground economy. They lease vast subterranean volumes to utility companies for power lines and fiber optic cables, to transit authorities for subway lines, and to private developers for multi-level parking garages, shopping concourses, and even private swimming pools buried deep beneath luxury towers. The potential revenue is enormous, but so are the costs. Excavating a single city block can run into the hundreds of millions of dollars, a staggering sum driven by the need for complex engineering, shoring up neighboring foundations, and navigating a maze of existing pipes and tunnels. Real estate developers weigh these immense upfront costs against the long-term payoff, whether it is the premium rents for a climate-controlled underground retail arcade or the ticket sales from a successful tourist attraction. The Paris Catacombs offer a masterclass in this transformation, turning a public health crisis into a globally renowned site that draws millions of visitors each year, generating revenue that helps fund the city's historical preservation efforts. This economic logic extends to pure utility. There is a growing global market for specialized underground storage, capitalizing on the Earth's natural insulation and security. Wine connoisseurs pay a premium for space in subterranean cellars where temperature and humidity remain perfectly constant year-round. Far more critical are the secure data vaults built in old mines or military bunkers, housing the servers of corporations and governments that demand absolute physical security for their digital assets. Yet for every profitable underground venture, there is a corresponding liability. An abandoned mine shaft beneath a new suburb can destabilize the entire development, requiring expensive infilling. A forgotten section of subway tunnel can threaten a new building's foundation, leading to costly lawsuits and engineering fixes. The ground beneath our feet is a patchwork of both untapped potential and hidden financial peril, a realm where a single discovery can either make a fortune or bankrupt a project. This constant negotiation between value and risk has seeped into our collective imagination, shaping how we portray these hidden worlds in our stories. A journey into the Earth has always been a journey into the human mind. Our most enduring stories use the subterranean as a powerful stage for adventure and allegory. From the prehistoric wonders of Jules Verne's journey to the center of the Earth to the digital prison of the underworld in the Matrix. In these narratives, the world below is never just a physical space. It is a reflection of our deepest fears and wildest hopes. Cultural critics point to a handful of powerful, recurring archetypes that shape these fictional realms. The underground is a place of primordial mystery where dinosaurs still roam and forgotten civilizations thrive. It is a sanctuary for the outcast and the rebel, a hidden refuge from a hostile world above. And most profoundly, it is a place of reckoning where heroes confront monstrous truths or descend into a symbolic subconscious to face their inner demons. The sacred glittering caves of Helm's Deep in Tolkien's Middle-earth represent a place of awe and elven reverence for the Earth's natural beauty, while the brutalist social experiment vaults of the Fallout game series twist this idea into a dark satire of survival and societal control. Authors note that this landscape is so fertile for imagination because it is literally and figuratively the foundation of our world, the unseen stage upon which our surface dramas play out. It represents everything we have buried, forgotten, or fear to confront, making it the perfect setting for stories of discovery and transformation. These fictional portrayals do more than just entertain, they actively color our perception of real underground spaces. Walking into a limestone cavern can feel like stepping into a fantasy novel, and the thought of a sealed military bunker immediately conjures images of a post-apocalyptic struggle. The myths we create add a psychological weight to the physical stone, making every dark passage feel like a potential gateway to another world. This cultural legacy, built from a century of books and films and games, has taught us to see the underground not just as empty space, but as a repository of meaning. And as our understanding of these real spaces evolves, so too does their role in our collective imagination, pointing toward a future where the very environment may depend on the worlds we have built below. A city breathes through its foundations, using the earth itself as a living lung to regulate its temperature. Deep beneath many modern metropolises, vast underground aquifers act as thermal batteries, storing coolness in the summer and warmth in the winter. This is the underground reimagined not as a tomb or a shelter, but as a natural utility, a critical component in the quest for urban sustainability. Environmental engineers point to the very ground we build on as an active partner in this process. The composition of the soil and the flow of buried rivers directly influence a city's stability and health, governing everything from the depth of building foundations to the purity of the water table. An obstructed or polluted subterranean stream can destabilize entire neighborhoods, while a well-managed aquifer can become a city's most valuable environmental asset. Visionary cities are already engineering remarkable solutions. In Stockholm, excess heat from summer is pumped down and stored in the solid bedrock beneath the city, a giant thermal bank that provides district heating to thousands of homes during the long, cold winter. Singapore, facing extreme constraints on its land area, constructed the deep tunnel sewerage system, a superhighway for wastewater that runs deep underground, reclaiming precious surface land while centralizing and improving water treatment. The benefits of building down are immense, primarily the radical reduction of a city's surface footprint. By moving utilities, transit, and storage underground, we free up the surface for parks, housing, and public life, creating greener, more livable urban spaces. Yet this strategy is not without its own set of risks. Excavation can release pockets of soil contamination long buried and forgotten, while the careless drilling into aquifers or old mines can trigger devastating sinkholes, swallowing sections of a street without warning. These subterranean spaces are far from silent relics. They are active, breathing systems that directly influence a city's environmental health. As our surface cities grow denser and our climate more volatile, this hidden landscape may well hold the key to our collective resilience. The same Earth that has preserved our past is now being engineered to secure our future. A new architectural frontier is emerging not in the sky, but in the earth. Visionary planners are now designing entire ecosystems for the subsurface, from parks bathed in reflected sunlight to multi-level neighborhoods built for comfort and resilience. The driving force is a simple, pressing equation. Our surface cities are running out of space while facing unprecedented climate threats. To solve this, we may consciously choose to build the next chapter of urban life downward. In New York, the Lowline Lab proved the concept of an underground park. Using a remote skylight and specially designed solar collectors on a rooftop, the project channeled natural sunlight into a buried warehouse, nourishing a lush subterranean garden. It was a stunning demonstration that life could thrive below, not in the harsh glare of fluorescence, but under a gentle, manufactured sun. This is just the beginning. Architects are drafting concepts for vast, multi-story caverns containing vertical farms, where climate-controlled environments could produce food year-round with minimal water and no pesticides. Others envision entire residential districts or earth scrapers that descend dozens of stories into stable bedrock, their atriums lit by full-spectrum lighting that mimics the daily cycle of dawn and day, twilight and night. The appeal is rooted in profound efficiency. the Earth's mass provides natural insulation, drastically reducing the energy needed for heating and cooling. Building down can protect communities from the increasing frequency of extreme weather events, from hurricanes to heat waves, offering a climate-resilient shell. And in hyper-dense cities where every square foot of land is priceless, developing the space below can relieve immense pressure on the surface, freeing up land for parks and public spaces. Yet the challenges are as immense as the vision. Engineers must solve the puzzle of structural integrity on a colossal scale, ensuring that these hollowed-out spaces can withstand the pressure of the ground above for centuries. They must design systems to provide a continuous supply of fresh, clean air, managing humidity and preventing the buildup of radon gas. Perhaps the most human challenge is psychological. How do you create a sense of well-being and community for people living without direct access to windows and natural views? The answer may lie in virtual windows projecting real-time views of the outside world, vast interior landscapes with mature trees and water features, and architectural designs that prioritize open, soaring spaces over cramped, tunnel-like corridors. This forward-looking perspective creates a fascinating dialogue with the past. The ancient builders of Derinkuyu and the Hypogeum were masters of subterranean survival and spirituality. We are now contemplating a future where we might become masters of subterranean living by choice, not necessity. Their successes and failures, their solutions for air, water, and community in the dark, become a crucial playbook for our own potential descent. The historical kingdoms below were sealed by time, but the future ones may be opened by design, making the silent wisdom of our buried past more relevant than it has ever been before. The hand-carved passages of Derinkuyu were a testament to human endurance, each mark on the stone a direct extension of a person's will to survive. Contrast that with the colossal tunnel boring machines that chew through bedrock beneath modern cities, their whirring discs operated by engineers in climate-controlled cabins. One was an act of communal desperation, the other a feat of corporate logistics. Historians point out that ancient societies like the Cappadocians or the builders of the Saflieni Hypogeum were driven by forces we would now consider existential. Their primary motivations were defense from invaders, the fulfillment of deep spiritual beliefs, and the basic extraction of resources like salt or stone. The very survival of their culture and community depended on the worlds they carved below. Modern engineering, however, answers to a different set of masters. We excavate for public utility, creating subways and sewers to keep a metropolis flowing. We dig for commerce, building underground shopping concourses and multi-level parking garages. And we prepare for potential crisis, constructing fortified bunkers for governments and data centers to protect our digital existence. The scale of organization reflects this shift. An ancient underground city rose from the collective, often anonymous labor of an entire population, driven by a shared, immediate threat. A modern subway line is the product of highly specialized teams, billion-dollar budgets, and years of negotiated contracts. Yet for all these differences, a civil engineer might note a surprising parallel in the fundamental challenges. Both the ancient miner and the modern machine face the same relentless enemies, groundwater pressure and the risk of collapse. The solutions are just separated by centuries of innovation. Where the Cappadocians relied on the innate strength of volcanic tuff and carefully calculated pillars, we use reinforced concrete rings and complex duotering systems. This comparison reveals a continuous thread in human development. Our tools have evolved from the chisel to the computerized bore, but the core needs that drive us underground are strikingly consistent. We still seek security from external threats, whether they are armies or economic collapse. We still value community, creating gathering spaces in the dark from underground churches to food courts. And we are perpetually solving the puzzle of how to use space more efficiently, maximizing the potential of every cubic foot. Recognizing this continuum does more than deepen our appreciation for the past, it reframes our modern excavations. We are not the first to seek answers beneath the surface, merely the latest in a long line of builders using the earth to meet our most pressing human needs. A city's underground is its unconscious mind, a realm where repressed memories and forgotten stories are stored away from the light of day. Just as our own minds bury traumatic or unresolved experiences, so too do our urban landscapes inter the chapters we would rather forget, from the squalor of buried slums to the collective fear sealed inside Cold War bunkers. This is more than just physical space, it is a philosophical landscape. Thinkers have long been drawn to the symbolism of the subterranean. The ancient Greek philosopher Plato used the allegory of a cave to explore the nature of reality and perception, suggesting that what we see on the surface might only be shadows cast by a deeper truth. Centuries later, cultural geographers would argue that the act of building and burying is fundamental to human identity. Every time we lay a new foundation over an old one, we are not just constructing, we are curating our history, choosing what to celebrate on the surface and what to conceal in the depths. This process of concealment is not necessarily malicious. It is often born of pure necessity, a practical solution for moving forward. But the result is the same, a hidden stratum that holds the unvarnished truth of who we are. The slums of Edinburgh's vaults were buried by a city eager to present a more respectable face. The bones of Paris dead were relocated to solve a public health crisis, effectively sweeping 6 million reminders of mortality out of sight. These are not separate worlds, they are the essential, foundational layers of the civilization above. To understand a city only by its skyline is to read only the introduction of a very long book, missing the complex, often darker chapters that give the story its full meaning. This perspective transforms our perception from a two-dimensional map into a rich, multi-layered entity, a living archive where every era leaves its mark, not side by side, but stacked one atop the other in a continuous vertical timeline. Our journey through these hidden kingdoms ultimately reveals that the ground beneath us is not inert. It is an active participant in the human story, a physical manifestation of our memory, our fears, and our relentless drive to build, even when that means building over the world we leave behind. Our journey ends where it began, on the pavement of a modern city, but the ground beneath our feet can never feel the same. We have walked through the silent empires of the dead, traced the ghostly paths of buried rivers, and stood in the cavernous halls built for both prayer and annihilation. These are not isolated curiosities, they are the foundational layers of our world, a rich archive of human endeavor, fear, and breathtaking ingenuity. From the sacred crossroads beneath St. Peter's to the pragmatic, climate-controlled kingdom of Montreal, these hidden realms tell the true, layered story of urban civilization. They prove that history is not a linear path stretching only behind us, but a vertical timeline stacked deep below, a physical record of every crisis we have overcome and every belief we have held dear. This entire exploration is an invitation to look closer at the world you think you know. Listen for the low roar of a lost river through a subway grate. Wonder about the sealed doorway in an old building's basement. Let the echoes of forgotten footsteps guide your curiosity. We would love to hear your own stories of the hidden places in your hometowns in the comments below. If this descent into the Earth's secret memories has captivated you, subscribe for more adventures into history's greatest enigmas. The next time you walk a familiar city street, pause for a moment and remember the lost kingdoms sleeping in the profound quiet, just one layer beneath your every step. The story of these hidden worlds is not confined to the past. It is a living narrative that continues beneath our feet. Your own curiosity is the most powerful tool for uncovering it. This journey does not have to end when the video does. You can become an active explorer of your local history. Seek out a museum with exhibits on local archaeology or geology, where the layers of your own region are on display. If you are in a city that offers them, join a guided tour of underground spaces, from historic crypts to repurposed industrial tunnels. Even a simple afternoon spent researching your town's founding or its oldest neighborhoods can reveal surprising secrets, showing you exactly where the past has been paved over. Your engagement is what allows us to continue this deep dive into history's greatest enigmas. If this exploration of lost kingdoms resonated with you, please like this video to let us know. Subscribe to our channel and join our community of fellow mystery hunters. By turning on notifications, you will never miss our next adventure into the unknown. We want to hear from you, so tell us in the comments, what hidden world would you most want to explore? A sunken city, a forgotten Cold War facility, an ancient temple swallowed by the jungle. Let us continue this conversation and share our discoveries. The map to the next lost kingdom is waiting, and the next chapter is yours to unfold.